very good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Rohit, for this opportunity. I think we've collaborated with each other for many years now, and it's always a pleasure to come and speak at the TWF conferences, whether it is two-wheelers, off-highway vehicles, or even commercial vehicles for that matter. So it's been a... Is it too loud? No? Is that okay? Okay. I can hear my echo, So today, I'm going to talk to you about a few trends that we see within the two-wheelers and the three-wheeler ecosystem, right? In terms of how some of these trends are going to translate to growth opportunities, whether it is a technology trend, whether it is a trend that is driven by the customer, for example, or for that matter, driven by regulations, right? Or mandates and so on. So with that, let me start. All right. So let me start with a few trends on two-wheelers. If you look at the electric two-wheeler ecosystem, that has seen a lot of change over the past, let's say, 5 to 6 years, primarily driven by technology on the one hand, and also the change in business models from, let's say, outright purchase or ownership, as we call it, to a usership-based model, right? So what does that mean? What does that mean to the ecosystem players, the OEMs, or let's say the tier one suppliers, even charging infrastructure companies for that matter? So the first one, every OEM today, irrespective of which vehicle segment he or she is present in, is driven by sustainability and circularity mandates, right? You've got sustainability mandates at the OEM level, you've got them at the country level, you've got them at the regional level. However, going forward, I think we will see a lot more responsibility, being attached to circular ecosystem, right? That means we will see a lot more investments happening in the R&R space, right? Recycle and reuse space. Today, we already have OEMs investing in recovering used materials, whether it is for batteries or electric motors, for example, and putting them back into the reuse ecosystem, whether it is a second life energy storage application for batteries, for example, or even extracting metals, right, and making it, let's say, 99.9% effective in terms of recovering all metals present in the battery. So I think that is going to be one of the key areas that is going to drive profitability as well as part of the sustainability mandates. So I think that's the first key trend that we are going to see that is going to influence the entire two-wheeler ecosystem, which is circularity and sustainability. The second one is the electrification surge, right? If you look at how electrification has changed the way micro-mobility in India has been over the past, let's say, 4 or 5 years, right? That's primarily because of the electrification surge. So what does that mean? On the one hand, we are looking at offsetting CO2 emissions. And on the other hand, from the infrastructure perspective as well, we are seeing a lot more investments in, let's say, public charging infrastructure, new business models like swapping, for example, and even for, let's say, large captive fleets, whether it is your Amazons, your Swiggies, Zomatos, for example, all your fleets are going to become electrified. And that is going to be one of the reasons why we will see a lot of commoditization of aggregates. Commoditization of, let's say, your motor aggregates, transmission aggregates, battery management solutions, and so on. So the entire electrification surge is going to be one of the key drivers, for the electric two-wheeler ecosystem. The third one, micro-mobility solutions. You must have seen what one of the Indian OEMs has done very recently. You have a vehicle that can transform from being a three-wheeler to a two-wheeler, right? Call it the Surge. So what does that mean? So are we going to see new vehicle segments being introduced that can transition seamlessly between, let's say, a three-wheeler and a two-wheeler? What does that mean? So we will see a lot more micro-mobility solutions, and that means we are looking at a $200 billion global market by FY30. That is the size of micro-mobility, by FY30. You may see some different numbers depending on, who you connect with or what the research methodology is. But having said that, micro-mobility and two-wheelers, right? Personal mobility essentially are going to be, is going to become the backbone, especially in urban India, right? Or any other urban part of the world. And that is where we see a lot of investments in terms of new business models, whether it is outright purchase or subscription-based models or even pay-as-you-use models, right? Innovative business models transitioning from ownership to usership is going to be one of the key drivers. That comes to the fourth point, right? Flexible ownership, as I said. Pay-as-you-use models. We are seeing that PAYU models picking up a lot of traction, especially in the commercial fleet segment, right? Especially if you're going to be a small fleet player, and if you're going to be an individual commercial vehicle owner and user, this model can be the best option for you out there. That means we will see a lot of shared miles by FY30, right? 50% is going to be shared miles, especially when we talk about electric two-wheelers by FY30. That means it is not going to be about outright purchase and individual ownership. It's going to be about subscription, let's say short-term rentals, for example, short-term leasings, for example, and that is going to become the key driver for not only technology being brought into these electric two-wheelers, but also how data is being used when we talk about fleet electrification and how some of the data analytics companies are partnering with the OEMs today in order to bring out specific demographic-based solutions for customer segments around the country. I think that's going to be one of the key factors. If you look at some of the data analytics companies today, they partner with OEMs to understand driver behavior, vehicle usage behavior, let's say, for example, with your route optimization, load optimization, and so on. And that is going to be one of the driving factors which we feel is going to be critical when it comes to flexible ownership and new business models for two-wheelers in India. Last point, for two-wheelers is everything related to connectivity and ADAS, right? 50% fleets are going to be on data-based TCO, right? I'm going to talk about TCO in a moment for electric three-wheelers as well, but for electric two-wheelers, we are already seeing advanced driver assistance systems being introduced. I think that is going to be one of the high investment sectors for OEMs, all traditional OEMs and even new age OEMs as well, right? Rider protection, and even maybe in some cases even pedestrian protection, right? We've seen airbags that pop out of helmets, for example, right? We've seen airbags that pop out of jackets, for example, for riders and two-wheeler riders. So ADAS and connectivity, again, we are already seeing connectivity features today in electric two-wheelers, the likes of TVS, Ather, Ola, and so on. I think that is going to be integrated seamlessly into your rider profile, especially when we talk about shared mobility. So these are, let's say, the top 5 trends that are going to drive the electric two-wheeler market. But how does this look for electric three-wheelers? Now, the key differentiating factor here is the usage, right? In electric three-wheelers, we will see a lot more asset-light business models, right? We are talking about three-wheelers for goods transport, for people transport, last-mile connectivity, and so on. So asset-light business models is going to be the key driver here. So what does this mean? Again, the first point is FMS, telematics and FMS, right? Every fleet manager today wants to understand how a particular vehicle is being used, whether it is driver behavior, vehicle behavior, let's say hard acceleration or hard braking, route optimization, you name it, right? Fleet management solutions, or FMS, is going to be very, very critical in terms of fleet managers wanting to understand asset utilization of their vehicles, right? And what's important is the last point there is real-time monitoring. Today, many of the fleet operators have control centers, right, where they can actually monitor vehicle behavior, driver behavior on a real-time basis. And on the basis of that, they are able to take corrective action in order to ensure they're able to, let's say, keep efficiency levels high, right? So telematics and FMS is number one. The second point is everything related to new energy. We have already seen, for example, Omega Seiki Mobility announcing hydrogen-based electric three-wheelers, or three-wheelers, for example. I mean, who would have thought hydrogen would make its way into a three-wheeler? It's happening today. And I think we will see the first commercially produced hydrogen vehicle, powered vehicle in the next 12 months, right? What's very important here is how the OEMs are investing in hydrogen upstream. That means today OEMs are very keen on understanding how hydrogen is produced, whether it is gray hydrogen, green hydrogen, or blue hydrogen, for example, right? Visibility on how renewability and sustainability is maintained is going to be one of the key differentiating factors for OEMs, and that is why what we call within the passenger vehicle or the commercial vehicle segment as backward integration, right? Today, OEMs are very keen on having control over hydrogen production, storage, transportation usage as well, right? That backward integration is going to be very, very important from an energy sustainability perspective. The third point is about OPEX-based model. I spoke about asset-light models. Again, very similar to OPEX-based models. There are a couple of points here to keep in mind. One is the pay-as-you-use model, PAYU, like I said before. Also, swapping solutions, right? If you have captive fleets, let's say a few hundred three-wheelers or two-wheelers, for example, you then have the possibility to have a captive swapping solution as well. That means you can not only have standardized battery models, but also it'll give you much better visibility in terms of vehicle usage characteristics as well, right? So driver behavior monitoring, vehicle usage monitoring is all very, very easy to have when you talk about, let's say, your captive swapping network. And that is where we see investments from OEMs, not only from first life mobility applications, but also using the swapping network to look at second life energy storage applications as well, whether it is for commercial, residential, UPS, telecom towers, you name it, right? It gives visibility in terms of how you can look at energy storage through the life cycle of a battery, right? The fourth point is financing. Today, one of the key challenges when it comes to electric three-wheelers is financing, because many of the financing organizations do not understand the workings of an electric three-wheeler because they do not have any legacy, unlike your IC engined vehicles, which probably have been there for 4, 5, 6 decades, right? The finance organizations, microfinance and NBFCs, have very little understanding or visibility on the technology that goes into electric three-wheelers. And as a consequence of that, they understand very little in terms of how they will behave over a period of time. And that's changing. Today, finance companies are actually partnering with data analytics companies to understand usage behavior. So that is actually giving them visibility in terms of predicting the life cycle of an electric three-wheeler, right? And that is going to be one of the key factors when it comes to insurance as well, right? Warranty-related issues. So partnership of finance companies with telematic service providers is going to be one of the key driving factors for India. Last but not the least, localization in COE. As, let's say, the mandate by the government that says, let's say, Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? Or let's say 30 by 30, which is 30% electrification by 2030, right? That means today, every electric three-wheeler OEM is setting up a COE, a Center of Excellence, for specific technologies in India, whether it is battery manufacturing or motor manufacturing, battery management, BMS manufacturing, or even power electronics for that matter. I think the investments are going to significantly increase, especially when we talk about localization of aggregates, subcomponents, and systems for electric three-wheeler applications, making it a little more affordable in terms of ownership and usage, and at the same time gives opportunities for many of the local players and regional players to become a part of the value chain when it comes to, let's say, software updates, for example, OTA updates, for example, and also in general to play a role in the entire e-mobility ecosystem. So to sum up, I think the future for electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers in India is very, very bright, and that is driven by changing customer sentiments as well. Today, the average Indian customer is a lot more open to adopt electric mobility, right? For many reasons. We've seen mainstream OEMs starting to offer new products which are competitive in nature, and at the same time, the investments made by the new age OEMs to improve visibility, right, and make vehicles more affordable to the common man is actually going to drive electrification in India. So with that, I'm going to stop. Thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an honor, and I'm happy to take questions later. I'm here through the day, so please feel free to connect with me. Thanks once again.